Hey, welcome to the With Parents podcast. My name is Jason Gann. I'm the pastor of kids and families here at Church of the Resurrection. So glad you tuned in. You are going to be inspired today as you hear tactical, practical ways that you can make a difference in the faith life of your child. I've got two of our amazing experts here at Resurrection. They focus on elementary, K through fifth grade, and we talk about those important moments, the milestones, kindergarten, third grade, fifth grade. We talk about the essentials of serving and praying and learning the scriptures. You are going to be inspired and hear some great things you can apply in your home today. Let's get into it. Mike, Shiloh, so glad you're here today. I get to see you and work with you all the time, but I'm excited to have you share with our families today some of your expertise and about how we can all help raise a generation of kids and families in the faith. And so, well, first, let's say, hey, you're both on staff here at Resurrection, and that's exciting. But tell us about yourself, Mike. Kick it off.
Yeah, sure. I am a dad of 3 girls and a husband of a wife who's a nurse, and so that's interesting. And I would go all the way back as far as my background. I felt like I was called into ministry when I was probably 13 years old. Wow. But I didn't accept that call and do anything about it until I was about 33 years old.
Okay, age of Jesus.
The age of Jesus, yeah. I kind of thought that was the right time. Then I finally accepted that call and went to seminary and then started working while doing that for some publishing companies and whatnot. And then ended up in ministry for children, ministering to children in a church here in town. And then from there, an opening came up here at Resurrection about 12 years ago.
Yes.
And came on staff there as the elementary program director, and it's been here ever since.
So you've been focusing on elementary since, right, for the whole 12 years.
Right.
It's definitely your sweet spot.
That is it.
I would say, Mike, you are an expert in that field, and that's part of why we have you talking today. I know families that you've supported, they see you in that light, and that's wonderful, and you're doing a great job. And so just glad for really everybody to kind of hear from you today. Yeah. And Shiloh? Tell us about you.
I'm Shiloh Link. I am the elementary director at West, and I am a parent to a dog.
And when you say West, you mean our Resurrection location in
Resurrection
Olathe,
West location.
Kansas, which is southwest suburb of Kansas City.
Yes. And I started there just over 3 years ago, right after I graduated college. But I have been in the Resurrection family since I was about 1 year old, and I grew up here at the Leawood location. Where Mike was actually one of my kids' directors, and I interned my junior year of college and kind of fell in love with it.
And part of what I love about you, Shiloh, is you're brand new into this, but the truth is you were built for this. Like it's so obvious, like when you're around kids and teens and the next generation, and it's kind of cool because we have a little bit, like at least in the biblical world, of a Paul and a Timothy, sort of the wisdom and the energy together. And I would just say your instincts are right on. Everything I've seen you do has been incredible, and I've learned from you. And it also just happens to be that my 17-year-old daughter is one of your key volunteers. She loves to volunteer with you every week as she helps lead the elementary program at our Olathe location. Very cool. Yes. So glad you both are here. We're talking about some important things today. And the way we think about ministry to elementary kids. And elementary here at Resurrection, we kind of think of as K through fifth, really pretty similar, really aligned with our school systems, and elementary ministry. So that's a big swath of ages, right? Like a lot happens between 5 years old and 10, 11 years old. A lot happens. But what's really important there are what we call here, and what most people call them, milestones in life, right? There's the milestone of birth. There's milestone of graduations. There's milestones. And these are moments where we tend to sort of double down with our families and our kids, making them a special focus around what it means to grow up in the faith, to be a follower of Christ. So we're going to kind of talk through those milestones today, those elementary milestones. 3 of them, really. So let's kick it off with kindergarten. Kindergarten's a big moment, right, for a family. I remember the first day of kindergarten for our family. I was excited. My wife was in tears. And I was like, this is so great. Yeah. So, we all, it's joy and pain in the kindergarten year, but it's a big milestone moment. So tell us what we do here at Resurrection.
Yeah, so, we our culminating moment is we have first off, we focus on kindergarten prayer, right?
Right, one of our 5 faith essentials.
Correct. One of the 5 faith essentials. And to either to kick it off or to finish it up, we do this prayer retreat in September where after church we just go through this whole thing. It's they do some activities around prayer, and we kind of speak to them a little bit about some of those essential parts of prayer. As a family, the parents come with their kindergartners, and that's a kind of a fun thing. But there's some key things that we focus on in that, and then there's something they do in the service with Adam. But one of the key points is Adam wrote a book that he and Stella wrote when she was young, called The Most Important Prayer of All, and it's really going over the Lord's Prayer.
Yeah.
And
well,
so
you've got it right there.
Got it
That's
right here.
right.
Yeah, got it right here. It's a small little paperback. It's but a great little book that he and Stella just kind of went through and did, and it just goes through the whole Lord's Prayer and talking a little bit about that, and a great piece for it. So we try to follow up with that in Sunday school or small group time, and every Sunday we include the Lord's Prayer, and it's large group time for that, and sometimes in small group time, but we include that as well. So, and there's some other components that we do with prayer as well. Shiloh might want to hit on some of those.
We also want the kids to feel comfortable in their own words instead of just the Lord's Prayer. Sometimes on Sundays we'll ask for volunteers to come and lead us, whether it's a 2-word prayer, thanks for food, or if it's a longer prayer, just them being comfortable in their own words, praying to God and talking to God.
That's cool. And the Lord's Prayer in the Christian faith, we see that as like the guiding prayer of how to pray, right? When Jesus when Jesus and his disciples asked him how to pray, he said, "Here's how to pray." And it's Pastor Adam, our senior pastor, Adam Hamilton, who wrote that book with his granddaughter. Just a great moment to kind of remind us also, hey, if you're a grandparent, you have immense influence over your child, your grandchild too, and sometimes grandparents need to hear that. Yeah. And so it's not just parents, and lots of grown-ups have influence, like our elementary kids directors who are supporting and guiding these kids. Here's a fun moment before we get into the next milestone, which is recently at the next milestone, 3rd grade Bible. I don't want to steal your thunder. But our senior pastor was leading the Lord's Prayer with all the kids behind him, and he was blown away because, of course, they all had it memorized and they knew it by heart. And that's an effort to you, thanks to your work of teaching them and training them up in the faith. And so I know he was kind of overwhelmed by that moment. It was beautiful. He started almost like tearing up with excitement. It was like a tear up and excitement thing, but it was a very cool moment.
Yeah. One other thing I'll mention too that we emphasize and easy for them to do at home, and that is sometimes like how to pray as a kid. And one of the easy things to do is the 5-finger prayer. And Adam will bring this up sometimes in the service, right? Where the thumb is praise, like wow, God, you're awesome, kind of thing. And then the next one is thank you. Yes. Thank you, God, for all the things you've done for us. And the 3rd finger would be forgive, right? So please forgive me for the mistakes that I made. And then the 4th one, your ring finger, is the one that says, please help me in those areas that I need help with, like that. And then your pinky finger, which kind of is the smallest of all of them, would represent you, right? And you just like, please use me.
Yes.
In whatever way that you fit. So those 5-finger prayer, call them. And sometimes people will put different things on each of those fingers, but a lot of times it's just those 5 to kind of help guide them.
It's a great guide. Yeah.
And we always try to make sure that they thank God if that's their only thing in their prayers, thanking God. And also remember that we come last. We put everything else first.
Right. God, then others, then us.
Then us.
And that's kind of the principal ethic of our faith.
Yeah.
Right? And I love that. Sometimes people, what is our ethic? We're going to actually talk about that this month in worship, is the ethic of love, and how this is our guiding principal ethic of faith, which is really cool. So thanks for sharing about kindergarten milestones. So that's a big deal. And I'll tell you, I talked to some kindergarten parents from this last year who went to the retreat. They were just like so excited to be there and be a part of their kids' lives, and that's our hope. Right? And that's why we call this With Parents, is that our hope is to both have the kids and the church with the parents in every way. And so next milestone is
3rd grade Bible. So in November, we present our 3rd graders with this deep blue Bible. and they'll get it during service, but then the next Friday we have a retreat and really getting them comfortable and using their Bible. Like, what do the big numbers mean? Learning that's the chapter, the little numbers mean the verse, and getting comfortable and finding these and using this as a tool. And this Bible is actually more like a study Bible. It has like little, like, did you know in it, and little umbrellas that help you with like difficult times, like mourning.
Yeah.
And it's just so amazing seeing these kids get so excited to learn about the Bible. But you can also use it at home too. Do you have more to add to it?
Well, I mean, we give that third grade Bible to our third graders like every year, as as Cho said and everything. But other kids, there are other Bibles certainly that are good out there. But around third grade, we feel like that's the time when they're really going to feel like they want to get in and learn more about what the Bible actually means and what it says. And as a parent, I know it's like sometimes you feel overwhelmed. Like, well, what if they ask me a question I don't know, right?
Sure. About
the Bible? What do you do then? Like, I'm kind of starting to panic. And I've always said, like, you don't have to know every answer to every question that's out there. In fact, sometimes you can just be honest and say, "That's a great question."
Yes, that's right. Don't be afraid to say you don't know.
But you know what? Let me take a few days and let's get back to that, and we'll schedule time. We can talk about that. And I'll talk to some people, and I'll do some reading myself, and we'll find it out, and we'll just work through that. So it shows that you're human as well, right? And you don't have all the answers, but you know that you can get those answers. That's important for them to know that it's okay to have questions, and it's okay to if you don't have the answer to those questions to say, "I'm not sure," but we can certainly work on that together and find out what the answer is.
And we want to be here for you, parents. All of us are here. So if your child has questions, encourage them to come and talk with us. In fact, I know Shiloh or Mike, myself, any of our pastors, any of our kids team would love to sit down with a kid and their grown-up and talk through some of those big questions. Because those are beautiful moments, right? The curiosity and the depth that can create a faith is really important. So we encourage questions here in our faith.
Right.
We think reason is a big part of our faith tradition. And I love that. And fun note about the third grade Bible, also, we always challenge our kids to read a gospel. Our senior pastor usually picks that gospel. We always try to go Mark. Mark's the shortest. It's also called the action gospel. So it's, gets right into the action of Jesus with the people and what he did. But if you're looking for a place to start, Mark is always a great place to start. And we give our kids a prize if they read that whole gospel. And we give a little reading plan, some other things, which is very cool. And
Well, I'm going to say this too. Like, one of the this is so funny, but one of the most helpful things that I learned when I was in seminary, right, was a professor taught us when we were taking an exegesis class, which is like breaking down scripture. What does it mean? Hermeneutics and stuff like that. And it was like for us who are non-language people, didn't have Greek, didn't have Hebrew, to know what the Hebrew and Greek were saying about that. And for those who didn't have that what they'd say is like, find 5 translations, different translations, and then read the scripture in each of those translations because they're all written, interpreted just a little bit different on how that's done. Yeah. And you'll sometimes get a different understanding or a more clear understanding of what it is based off that particular version of scripture. So it's like, and they of course highlight this with a different marker and all that. But it's like, that was kind of an eye-opening thing for me. It's like, I didn't have the Greek, so I don't really know. But you could do a little bit of hermeneutical work.
Yeah. And I do remember the Deep Blue Bible is a Common English Bible, I think is the newest, and that's one of the newer translations that has something like the greatest number of scholars ever to help put that together, which I think is really cool. And so there's always this great new development and understanding language, interpretation, the nature of God through Scripture. The last thing I'll mention is one of the changes that we made as a team. The third grade Bible milestone retreat used to be just third graders, but now it's third graders and their grown-up. Most of the time it's parents. A lot of times it can be a grandparent, an older sibling. It's a special grown-up in their life. But I remember the first time we made that shift, I was at one of our locations. At the end of the evening, I think actually I was at our West location where Shiloh serves. And there was a mom in tears because she was so excited to get to learn how to use the Bible with her child. And that's our hope, is to help equip you as parents too. And so just know we take that very seriously, and we want you to have that shared experience. And so,
A couple of things you can do to help your child get comfortable with the Bible is ask them about the memory verse they're learning on Sundays and tell them to find it for you and show it where it is. And another thing, like Jason said, we challenge the third graders to read a gospel is you can pick a book in the Bible as a family to read throughout the month and like read a different chapter each night and kind of get comfortable doing that together.
Yeah, great suggestion. That's awesome. All right, so we've covered kindergarten milestone and third grade milestone. Now we've got another milestone, and it is
Fifth grade serve. Fifth grade serve.
So we kind of let me reflect on those 5 faith essentials: worship, which is where prayer is, worship and prayer; study of Scripture; serve, now in 5th grade; share and give. These are our 5 faith essentials. So we kind of focus on one. So 5th grade, serve. All right, tell us about it.
Well, for 5th grade, it all culminates in what we call a serve day, right? And so they pick, a lot of times it's on Sunday, and maybe they might choose to be an usher, right? So they will, or a greeter, and so they will serve in that capacity in the church. They will be alongside an adult mentor type of person that will kind of help in that, but they get to spend the day doing one of those highly visible serve opportunities in the church as well, and get a little bit of an experience of kind of what that's like to serve people in the congregation in that way. And it oftentimes sparks that inner thing, and then I go, I kind of like that. I kind of like to do that, more of that.
Yeah.
It might be in that particular area of being an usher. It might be in a different area.
Serving communion or be a greeter,
Right.
Tech or security even, right?
Yeah.
These are all places that 5th graders can serve with their grown up for a weekend. That's pretty cool.
Yep, and they serve alongside their parents because it's very important for your kids to see you serve and learn that you can serve others, help others. I also always try to embrace when kids want to serve. I have kids that may not quite be old enough to serve in elementary because they're still elementary kids, but they really want to be a volunteer instead of just a part of the program. So during check-in, I'll have them be with some of our high school volunteers and help run check-in, and they're junior helpers. So just kind of embrace whenever they want to serve in whatever way it is.
Yeah,
That's
and
awesome.
there's so many opportunities. I mean, here at Resurrection, there's so many different opportunities to be able to serve. One of the things I love about Resurrection is the offerings they have to be able to serve the community in a lot of different ways, just inside the church and outside the church. But beyond that, if you're in your own community that's not a part of Resurrection, there's so many different places that you can serve, whether it be on Christmas time with the Salvation Army bell ringers, or a local soup kitchen, or something like that, or just people in need where you have. I remember growing up, just some of the older people in the community who maybe are lost their spouse and now they're alone, to be able to just make a little care packet and drop it by their house, type of thing.
Yeah.
There's just so many different ways that you can involve your child of all age, not just 5th grade. We focus on 5th grade in that serve, but serve can be for any and all ages, especially when you're doing it as a family thing. The whole family can join in.
Yeah.
That's right. And when you think about the faith practice of serve, right? If you're a follower of Christ, you understand that. But even if you're not, it teaches our kids humility, teaches us to love all. It's just a great posture of how to understand our place in the world when we serve others. Things come into perspective that we see it differently, and I think that's important when we think about that faith essential. So we've got the kindergarten, we've got 3rd grade, we've got 5th grade. These are big moments, big milestone moments. And then I also know you've got some other tips that you wanted to share today, kind of from your perspective, things you might offer our families on how to help raise kids in the faith and strengthen their faith. And who'd like to share this?
Do we want to start with the money one, the giving?
We could talk about the giving. So that was part of the 5 essentials.
Yeah, one of our faith essentials of giving.
Faith essentials. So here at Resurrection, we did this little thing, and you could make your own boxes at home, whatever. But we had this little thing we had done. Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. And we had these. It contains 3 boxes on the inside. And one box was a give box, and then one box that would be a save box. And then the 3rd box, pull it out here, is a
Spend,
spin
right?
box. Now, a lot of the kids probably want to start on the spin box,
probably
right?
understand that one, right?
Yeah, they understand this one really well. So it's the other two that are the other ones that we probably need to focus on, and the saving. But more importantly, from a Christian perspective and from that foundational perspective on our faith, we want to focus on giving and why it's important to give off the top, right?
Yes.
Give first what is God's, and then save, and then spend what's left over. So, any
great,
way or form to be able to encourage them early on of what giving, why it's important.
Well, and I think sometimes there's a theological misunderstanding because, at least in my interpretation, and I'm not always right, so you may disagree, the giving or the tithe or the giving God first fruits is for us, not for God. It's to help kind of prioritize our lives in the right place because God's going to be fine without our giving. God's going to make a way. But there's something to be said about learning to be generous to God first because it helps all of our posture of how we approach God, the world. And I think there's a high value there when we think about what we do with the blessings we've received. And kids get this sometimes better than most,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, there's actually, I was talking to a volunteer this week, and there's she's in 6th grade now, but she was telling the volunteer that every September she starts saving her money to go to the Christmas offering. And this is a 6th grader that has set aside her own money that she could be spending on other stuff that 6th graders like. And she's saving it to give because
She gets it.
Yeah.
And we see that also around Vacation Bible camp time. These kids will go out there for the mission goal that we're trying to get to. And that last day, you'll see the pictures and stuff come in of these two little girls, a 1st grader and a 3rd grader, who decided that they were going to just do a lemonade stand in their neighborhood. And I think one neighborhood, they raised like $200 in a day, right? They brought that in on the last day for the missions offering. So those are just great opportunities to be able to encourage them and instill in them that opportunities to be able to serve.
I feel like they always knock that goal out of the park for VBC.
Yes.
They go way above what we could have imagined.
Yeah, they're excited to know what a difference they can make, right? I think that's a powerful understanding. So when we think about that, I know there's also another tool we wanted to make sure parents were aware of. So families, if you're not aware of, we have something you can pick up at all locations. What's it called?
It's called Talkin' Tunes. So on it, there's 2 sides. There's one for early childhood, and there's one for elementary, and it just kind of breaks down things to talk about, like on the car ride home. So that's what's kind of made to hang on your rearview mirror. But talk about like things they learned on Sunday. But there's also playlists at the bottom, so you can play the songs that the kids are hearing on Sunday and let them teach you the silly moves that we do and embrace kind of the fun they have, but encourage the conversation to continue outside of Sundays.
Yeah, and our team makes a new Spotify list every month for those age levels so that you can sing along in the car. And I think you might be surprised. Somebody was an older gentleman in our congregation the other day asked me, what kind of songs do our kids sing now? And I said, we're doing new songs. So it's not the same old songs that maybe we heard in the previous generation, but the songs are teaching the principles of our faith in the same way.
Yes.
And so it's just, new songs. And it's really exciting to watch the kids learn and get excited about this music. And a lot of our music that we teach the kids are written in-house by our core collective and other talented worship leaders among us who are writing these songs. We do that every year for Vacation Bible Camp original songs. And songs can teach us a lot, Kids love to sing.
Yes.
It's very cool.
They love it.
Very cool.
We have so many kids that want to help lead worship on like worship togethers. They want to be up there with the band, and it's so amazing that they want to be a part of that.
That's great. Well, okay. Any final insights, tactics, tips you might offer families when they're thinking about elementary kids, K through 5th grade life staging, faith development? Anything you guys would offer?
Yeah, a couple things that come to mind for me. Just as a dad, growing up, right? Not just as a children's pastor, children's minister, but as a dad. And one of the things where you talked about in the car with the talking tunes, but the car rides have perfect opportunities. You have so many conversations about stuff in car rides, right? So a perfect opportunity to be able to bring faith into that car ride. Ask those questions regarding faith, not just on Sunday when you're leaving church, but just during the week. How's your week going? Where do you feel like you've see Jesus at work around you, and just to spark some of those conversations to be able to have, because you're in the car. I don't know what the statistic would be about how much time we spend in the car, but it's a significant amount of time, right?
It's a lot of
So
time.
those are just great opportunities to be able to start some of those conversations and introduce some of those topics to be able to do that. And then secondly, I would say, at least for me, growing up as a parent of my 3 girls, on the area of prayer, one of the best things you can do for prayer with your kids is to model it in your home. Our kids would hear us pray, and to this day, if you ask our kid to pray at any given place, public or not, they would just not hesitate. They would just lead right out into prayer, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that they just heard it modeled. They heard their parents pray, and by hearing that, they just it almost like helps them formulate how to pray and what to say and that type of thing. And so don't be afraid to do that. Pray often in front of your kids, whether it's at bedtime, meal times, whatever it is. In fact, I always used to joke, my kids would pray at mealtime. I'd always at the end, I'd say, oh yeah, and bless his food, because they're praying for the needs of our family and friends like that. Like, but in the food, don't forget the food, right?
That's awesome. That's awesome. How about you, Shiloh? Any final thoughts?
Back to like modeling, just really want to like encourage you to serve with your kids. Like that's how I got involved, because I was watching my mom serve with kids. And the second I got old enough to volunteer, I wanted to volunteer alongside my mom. So just seeing like the people that I looked up to serving made me want to serve. So let your kids see you serve any chance you get.
Yeah, and
That's awesome.
we always have plenty of opportunities
Yes.
and spots for
Yes.
parents to be involved in serving.
In fact, I would say that to you, parents. If your child is involved in our program, and that's what we hope, because we believe this is the best place to raise a family. So my hope is that you're going to get involved, and you can serve once a month, whenever you can, really. But it's important for you to get engaged, and we are more than happy to welcome you into the classroom setting. I think you'll find a great experience. You'll get to then talk about that shared experience, which makes it even more meaningful. And I've shared this before on the podcast if you're like a loyal follower, but the number one statistic of what keeps kids in the faith, in the church as they grow older, is not an amazing kids or youth program, even though those are high value. It is worshiping and engaging into the life of faith with your family. So that's certainly worshiping together. It can be serving together. It can be volunteering together. It can be going to these retreats and milestone moments together. It's whatever you can do together. And that's a key thing. So, hey, I just want to say on behalf of the whole congregation, I know there are people out there that are involved at Resurrection. And if you're not, we'd love to have you. You are more than welcome here, and we welcome all. Is that these are 2 of our greatest resources. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your commitment to kids and families, to helping children be safe, feel safe, understand the love of God through the way in which you care for them and you lead them and you disciple them and you teach them and you sometimes struggle with them, because that's real too. But you guys are doing it. You're on the front lines. You're like the first line of working and serving with our kids. And I know that what makes you most excited every week is just greeting new families and welcoming new kids in and seeing those kids get involved and get engaged and get excited about faith. So thank you for what you do. It's going to be an amazing year of ministry, and that's partly because of what the 2 of you are going to help lead us in, and we hope you'll get involved. We really, truly believe this is the best place to raise your family. That's what we want to strive to be. You can help us be that with us. We're so grateful to have you tuned into the podcast today. And if you don't have a church home, we'd love to welcome you at Resurrection on the weekend at any one of our 6 locations, or online and TV at resurrection.church. If you go /kids, you can find out even more about all the great kids ministries here. Again, thank you guys for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.